Hi there, it's Darcy. I'm back. I thought I would take some time today to talk about my bilateral mastectomy. I'm 4 months post-op right now. I have the tissue expanders still in. In another video, I updated and let people know that I had to push my surgery back 30 days because I am not healing as well as they would like, and I had some fluid buildup, and I have my next pre-op appointment this week for my surgery, which is in about 18 days. So hopefully everything goes good this time and I can get in and get that done. But it's time that I do this video. It's been 4 months. I put it off. I was very vulnerable during that time, and I have a couple of pictures of me in the hospital and directly after, and it's not pretty. And it's not my best moment, and I'm not as brave as some of the ladies I've seen that have taken the cameras right with them into pre-op and all that stuff, and I wasn't prepared for that. Even though I'm very public and open about what I'm going through, I just focused on healing at that point, and I put this video off. I'm going to admit that. The day before the surgery, I did a lot of prep, cleaned my whole house, and I packed my bag and everything. I went out for a dinner with my daughter and my husband. I don't know if I was thinking maybe this is it, that's my final dinner. I don't know, but but I did it. And I had to go to the plastic surgeon's office the night before and get a marking appointment done. And then I also had to take Tylenol the night before and the morning of, and also wash with the surgical soap, both the night before and the morning before I went in for surgery, to prevent infection. And they said they have 100% track record of no infection, so that's a really good thing, and that made me feel pretty decent about it. But there were issues with the soap, and we'll talk about that when I get to that part of the video. The morning of surgery, I went to the hospital. And mind you, you have to fast. I had to fast from midnight until I went in for surgery. And I don't do well. I'm not a morning person. I work second shift. I am not a person that has to get up and get to a hospital at 7 o'clock in the morning. So I was already pretty grumpy. I was pretty hangry. I wanted my coffee, and the receptionist had technical difficulties when I checked in, and I ended up 45 minutes late for surgery. They had to call the help desk and fix their computer. They couldn't check me in. And finally, I think there was just some pressure, and they said, they just brought me in anyway. And then when I got into the room and I changed for surgery, they had a brand new, like nurse's aide or trainee of some sort, and she was doing my IV, and it did not go well. She made 3 attempts and didn't do good, and ended up bruising me pretty badly, and I met with my surgical team and my anesthesiologist and all that. They all came in and told me what they were going to do, and so the anesthesiologist actually had to give me a local and do the IV, and the young lady couldn't do it. So that didn't instill a lot of confidence in me at that point, but they got it done. And then they explained the nuclear medicine to me, which I said, hey, why don't you just knock me out? Knock me out, and we can do it that way. But they said, no, you have to be awake for the nuclear medicine, because what it does is they're going to inject it, and it's going to find the cancer, and make it easier for the surgeons to do their job. And I guess if you are under the anesthetic, the nuclear medicine takes a lot longer to take effect, and then I'd have to be under longer, the surgery would take longer, and it's higher risk. So they had to do that while I was alert and awake, and big long needle, and they inject that into the areola, like north, south, east, west, 4 shots. It is pretty painful. I'm not gonna lie about that. It's not the last thing I wanted to feel in my nipple area. Let's put it that way. But they did it, and then the anesthesiologist did a kind of like a saddle block, where pretty much the chest area from the neck to the bottom of the rib cage ish, in the back, front and back, is completely numbed up. And I took the Tylenol, I guess because the muscles still feel pain when you have the surgery, even if you don't feel any, because your brain doesn't have that conscious pain. Your body still does, and it has a reflexive response to pain. So they do pre-management to kind of minimize that for the surgeon, so it goes faster. And it was fine. So that chaos went through, and then I was out. Within a few minutes of the nuclear medicine, boom, I'm under. And next thing I know, I'm waking up. And it's, I think, 2:30 in the afternoon, something like that. I woke up very high. I was very high. I was on 2. I think it was like Dilaudid or something they put into my IV, and then I had OxyContins. I was almost giddy and giggly when I got up. I was cracking jokes, and within an hour of waking up, I took a photo. I took a selfie of me in the bed, and in my surgical bra and everything, my pajama top. And I've got a picture of that right here. And I actually sent that to my boss and everything. I was like, hey, I woke up, everything went well. I was like, just silly, actually. And, but one of the first things I noticed was that I didn't have much use of my arms, which is expected. The right arm, I had, I don't know how much, maybe 30%-ish. I could, like, eat, I could, hold a washcloth and wipe my face, maybe, but I couldn't do very much with the right arm. I called it the T-Rex. And then this arm, I had quite a bit. I was able to do a decent amount of stuff with this arm. So I started becoming left-hand dependent, which I'm not left-handed, but I was for several weeks, and I was very grateful that I am athletic, and I exercise a lot, and I did a lot of squats before I went in, because the first couple of weeks, to get up, for the first week, my husband had to, like, scoop me up under my back. I couldn't get up from a laying down position. But in the hospital, and directly after, I would have to kind of just roll off like couches and things, and I'd have to do a squat to get up because I couldn't get up. Even in the bathtub, I'd have to get to my knees and try to get up that way. And not having arms is really frustrating, so be prepared for that. It does get better. And I was also very dizzy, sick, weak, nauseous for the first like 3 or 4 days afterwards. That's probably from anesthesia. I was kind of, I would lose time, and I would kind of get confused and whatnot during that process. So that's what I had going on the first few days in my brain. And then I stopped taking the painkillers on like the 4th or 5th day. I was too fuzzy and it wasn't working for me. And I will say they did really good with the pain management, and my team did. And I don't think that I was ever in horrible pain, a lot of discomfort. There was a little bit of pain from chafing of the skin and stuff like that. But the actual surgical area, no. I had a lot of pain from the drain tube area and the drainage from the lymph fluid. That was really painful on the cancer side. And also they had it like stitched in and stuff, and that it went 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. So it was painful in that area where the drains were. But as far as the actual surgical area, I didn't really feel much pain. It wasn't horrible. So I have a picture of me when I got home in my surgical bra. And as you can see in this lovely picture, I had really weak hands too. I couldn't drain my drains by myself at all. And that picture's like the first morning, full morning after being home. And my drains are all full of like blood and lymph fluid and everything. It took me a few days before I was able to drain those out. And I have some tricks on one of my other videos about the tips and tricks as to what I finally figured out to be able to drain that. But it's really disgusting in the picture, and I apologize. You can also see that my entire neck in the photo is horribly red with an awful rash. So I said earlier I had to use the surgical soap for infection, and I ended up really horribly allergic to the surgical soap, and I broke out in a nightmarish rash, and I also couldn't wash the under the bra area for 3.5 weeks, and I had that rash for a while. So that wasn't very fun. That was probably one of the worst parts about it, that and the drains. The drains are awful, awful, awful. And for the first week or two, I was completely helpless as well, which, relying on others is not something that I do well. It's not something that a lot of women do well. So that is something to be aware of. You're really helpless. I couldn't even turn the hand crank on a can opener. It would take me like 15, 20 minutes to open a can. Because I could only turn it like a little quarter turn at a time. I had no strength in my wrists and hands for the whole arm because of the shoulders and the arms and the pecs and all that. So be aware of that. And that's it. That's what I went through. And I am going to come back on again after my appointment this week and do a little check-in. And hopefully we will be ready for an expander surgery before the end of the month. So I'll see you then.